On today's wrestling news, we've got another WWE contract expiring.
Details on 4 departures from AEW.
Andrade vents some frustrations.
And Tony Khan says he'd love to get Ricky Starks back involved in AEW. I'm Adam Wilborn.
And I'm Phil Chambers.
And this is the news.
But first up, WWE contract news. Who knew?
Not another one.
Everywhere at the minute. We can't stop talking about it. So this one is coming from Fightful Select again, and it is Angel Garza. Now, apparently his contract is up on August the 1st, and the two sides have been negotiating, but there is an offer on the table from WWE to Angel Garza, which is interesting. Now, obviously, he signed in WWE back in 2019. He's former Cruiserweight champion, former 24/7 champion. Remember 24/7 championship? That was a weird little fever dream of a time, wasn't it? And has been kind of constantly embroiled in the sort of LWO Legado del Fantasma stuff for a while now on TV. So it seems like they're wanting to keep him around. They've got a contract on the table, and we'll have to wait and see if he takes it.
They love playing this game of chicken, don't they? With so many wrestlers right now, it feels like every single day we come in and talk about a different contract situation. We talked about Chad Gable, whose contract's up on like Friday. Becky Lynch's contract has expired, but there was still reference to her on last night's Raw, so you sense that's more of like a go away, have a nice holiday or whatever, have a bit of a break.
Still very much on good terms, expecting us to come back.
You never have a holiday as a parent, but you know, just go away and handshake deal, and when you come back, whenever you're ready, basically. Drew McIntyre's obviously up in the air until The Rock gave him a sword. But yeah, I really like Angel Garza. I think he was fantastic certainly in the initial. He's kind of run its course now, but the initial stages of Legado versus the LWO, he was fantastic. He's such a talented performer. He's an absolute piece, of course.
Yeah.
I miss him ripping his trousers off. There, I said it.
It would be good. Yeah, we reported on Saturday as well that like a lot of these things are tied to the TV rights deals. They brought a lot of the contracts up to exactly this date because this was the year they did the TV rights deals, so they knew how much money they were going to have going forwards, I guess, to see how much they can splash on talent.
They're being tight, aren't they?
Fully expect there to be a few more of these come out before the end of the year.
I don't know if this is true or not, but I saw something on social media over the weekend saying like the minimum wage is like 350 grand a year on the main roster, which seems pretty decent, but like sometimes, and it's they got to take into account their whatever, got to pay for a lot of things themselves, but also doesn't really matter what the number is if you're not happy with your creative. So we'll wait and see. You sense that someone with like Angel Garza, they might try and lowball him a little bit. I don't think they should. I think he's brilliant, but I also think WWE feels their position is probably a lot stronger right now than it was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And with sort of more of these coming up, I guess they themselves get to pick and choose who they're going to want to keep around. So it's gonna be interesting to see what kind of deals end up on the table when you think of like a Becky Lynch that is reported to have like potentially the biggest deal of any woman in the history of wrestling, to all the way down to other levels. So it's going to be interesting to see what all comes out.
Pay wrestlers what they deserve.
I know, right? They're still lower paid than UFC and every other major sport in America. So they're still the lowest paid.
There's Premier League footballers who get paid that minimum wage for the main roster in a week.
Yeah.
In a week.
Kind of ludicrous.
They don't have to take bumps on a daily basis.
Schedule they're on as well.
Anyway, from WWE to AEW and 4 confirmed AEW departures. We've talked a fair bit about some of these when they were sort of in the process of happening. It's just the dates have finally arrived, and Mike Johnson of PW Insider confirmed the departures from AEW and their removal from the roster page as a result of this of Arn Anderson, Jake Hager, Mark Henry, and Paige Van Zandt. I think Paige Van Zandt, I assumed she'd gone from the company anyway. I've seen her doing lots of fighting stuff as well, and obviously she's a big social media person. Mark Henry, Jake, and Arn are the 3 people we've mentioned with their contracts expiring. Arn, I think, wants to spend more time focusing on his son's career. Mark Henry's focusing on markhenry.com or whatever it is, and presumably like busted open stuff. And Jake Hager, maybe he's going to go back and focus on MMA fighting, or maybe I've seen suggestions of him going back to the Fed, but yeah, I sense all of these aren't going to struggle whatever they do next.
Yeah, I don't think so. Like, for the majority, they've all got big enough things outside of wrestling, let's say. Especially with Paige Van Zandt in the world, like she'll be fine with her and things, and Mark Henry's got a load of things going on. So yeah, they're not going to struggle. It's a bit of a strange mix of people, I guess, but they're like widely different reasons as to why they're leaving.
Yeah, and it's one of those where I think we're going to see more and more of this in the coming years, of the fact that AEW has such a huge roster, obviously.
Yeah.
And they're not going to release people unless they really do something awful. So they're just going to let these contracts expire, which is the honourable thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely going to be more of them coming up. Like Jeff Hardy's coming up soon.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, Matt's left. Yeah, who knows what's going to happen there.
So maybe this is AEW's way of just thinning it out slightly, just that sort of revenue sheet.
me and Sitch have this constant back and forth of like, right, that's it, no more signings for AEW until 2025. And then Leo Rush comes in and has a brilliant showing against Roddy Strong on Collision. You're like, okay, maybe one more. What's that? Ricochet's contract's coming up. All right, maybe. Chad Gable, maybe we'll make allowances for him. And Becky Lynch, obviously, if they could try and get her, makes sense that they would. But yes, we'll keep you updated on any contract situations and departures and arrivals as and when they come up.
But speaking of situations, Andrade in WWE.
Oh, here we go.
Been out on Twitter venting a little bit of frustration within not necessarily his position within WWE, but at least what's been going on within the booking of WWE, let's say. So a fan asked him on Twitter, basically just said, why do they always make Latinos fight Latinos? Fair question.
Yeah.
And Andrade replied saying, I wonder the same, with like 6 exclamation marks afterwards. And then he put up a picture. 3 pictures, one from CMLL, one from AEW, and one from AAA, just saying the real Latino man of him fighting a wide range of people.
Yes.
But yeah, including AEW in there along with CMLL and AAA. Now obviously he has a little bit of a point. Like the LWO versus Legado del Fantasma thing has seemingly gone on forever now.
Yes.
I
thought it was finished at WrestleMania, if I'm honest.
Apparently not. And he originally signed to Raw, and they even made it sort of a low-key part of his storyline, that it was like he was said that the LWO and Legado del Fantasma were over on SmackDown, so he wanted to kind of come over to Raw and kind of forge his own path. And then
now Santos is trying to recruit him on SmackDown.
And then he ended up getting embroiled in the LWO stuff anyway at WrestleMania with Dominic Mysterio and things. And then he moved over to SmackDown now, and he had that match with the Apollo Crews last week. And then immediately gets attacked by Legado del Fantasma afterwards. And it's
like the thing is,
it's a loop.
I'm conflicted on this because he does have a point. They do just sort of go. Because my opinion is, I think Andrade would be a brilliant challenger for Cody Rhodes for the world title before SummerSlam, let's say. Like Money in the Bank would be a perfect place for him to, you've just returned him to the TV, build him up, and then have him fight Cody Rhodes at, let's say, Money in the Bank or whatever, or have him in Money in the Bank. But the fact that they just got nothing for him to do, just do stuff with Santos.
Yeah.
Do stuff with Santos and Angel and Humberto and blah, blah, and Elektra and what have you. It is very lazy. Having said that, he does have a bit of a history of causing problems for himself on social media. Yeah,
this is true. And whether, you can read too much into these situations, whether it's just him, having a bit of a pop, I guess, going, oh yeah, I wonder why too. You can probably read too much into these situations, but then when you look at his history of laying things out there on social media, let's say, it might end up being a bit questionable. There was a funny gif from Tony Khan as well, just after he posted
I wonder what this was in relation to initially.
Tony Khan, everyone's putting 2 and 2 together to make this, but straight after he did the sort of real Latino man post, Tony Khan put up a gif just saying, see, I'm not a bad guy after all. So it's interesting, let's say. We'll have to wait and see whether this is true frustrations or whether he'll do anything.
I hope this is the catalyst for change, because it is a bit annoying.
It is dumb. It is definitely dumb.
The entire roster they have, and they're just like, you guys go together.
Over there.
Again, really?
Forever.
Okay. But speaking of Tony Khan, Phil, he has been talking about how he'd love to get Ricky Starks back involved in AEW. He was doing an interview with CBS Sports talking about Ricky, saying, I really like Ricky Starks a lot. The last time we saw him here was in the World Tag Team Championship tournament. Him and Big Bill formed a great team. They were the World Tag Team Champions. They had a great run, and it culminated in the last televised match of the legendary career of the Icon Sting. I think it was a huge thing that Ricky and Bill, that their run culminated in such an important match. We talk about 5 years of AEW, and maybe to me the most special part of that was the 3-year run of Sting, what we were able to do to give him, I thought, the greatest send-off ever in wrestling, and Ricky is a huge part of that. Obviously, Starks hasn't wrestled since March 30th. He was in a match on Collision and seemed to get hurt by a Pele kick from Darius Martin. He followed up on that on Instagram, though, pretty quickly, though, saying he was all good and he was just taking precautions. And then he spoke to, I'm not sure if you heard of this site or web YouTube channel or whatever, What Culture? A brilliant chat. out. You should check it out with our very own Andrew Pollard.
We'll put a link in the corner.
Yes, he said he had no clue why he hadn't been on TV since March 30th, and Tony Khan continued saying, I think Ricky Starks is tremendous. I'd love to get him involved and back in AEW anytime. He's been a huge part of what we've done here for about 4 out of the 5 years. If you watch this channel, you know our love for Ricky Starks. A great guy, lovely bloke as well. Like when we've met him, he couldn't have been kinder and nicer to us. Is it just me, Phil? Am I being really dumb here? But when he says, I'd love to get him back involved in AEW.
How could you do that?
Yeah, my brain just goes, just book him for Wednesday then? He's a contracted employee. Like, think of a storyline and book him. I don't know, it feels like he's got one foot out the door. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it definitely feels like that from the interview that we put up, which is a very good interview, even if we do say so ourselves.
Yeah.
It feels like he's got an eye on what's next, let's say, rather than one foot
He was
out the door.
at Mania, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was at Mania, but just supporting friends and things. Obviously, best friends with Jade Cargill and good friends with Cody.
Yeah, both of his really good friends. I do.
So he's like, yeah, you're allowed to go and support your own friends at these things. But yeah, it feels like, if not one foot out the door, at least an eye on what could be next if this doesn't work out. But he still said that he has like an unfinished business in AEW.
Oh, absolutely.
So there's still a lot he could do there. But yeah, that Tony Khan statement, oh yeah, I wish I could get him back somehow. He's right there, just book him. It's really easy.
Just don't book him under the learning tree, that's all I'd ask. Please.
Oh God, yeah.
Please God.
Could you imagine? That would be the next thing, wouldn't it?
But yeah, where do you reckon Ricky Starks is going to end up? Let us know your thoughts on that in the comments section below. And we'll move on to your Twitter questions at WhatCultureWWE on X, of course, if you want to get in touch with us. First question today comes from Francisco Moro. Cheers for this, Francisco. He says, good morning, gentlemen. After this morning's news, this was yesterday, of course, do you think there's any correlation that most of these performers are showing up on TV, getting very close to the end of their contracts, so they have exposure to influence their decision whether to stay or go?
I mean, I wouldn't put it past them.
It doesn't harm their chances. It doesn't harm the negotiating of WWE, does it?
If you can take someone that you want to keep an eye on and just go, hey, look what we can do for you.
Yes.
And put them out there, that's the best thing you could possibly do to try and make someone stick around, really.
But I also think they haven't just suddenly decided Chad Gable needs to be on television. Like, they built this up. I thought it was brilliant what happened on Raw last night. We'll talk more about it on the Raw Review podcast, of course. But I think he's going nowhere, is he? The way they booked that, his contract's up on Friday. Otis is facing Sammy next week. Like, he's probably winning the title at Clash at the Castle, Chad Gable. So I'm really happy. I think they're going to give him a big push, and I think it's just a timing thing. But yes, I think if it was someone else and they suddenly decided, hey, you want a title shot? Then that might be slightly more cynical.
Yeah, there's a difference between it completely coming out of the blue and basically going from not being used to being used.
Yeah, but as you alluded to, if they've just held off on all contracts until after the TV rights negotiations, it's just going to be quite a lot of coincidences that some of the biggest stars on telly are like, you do know I could just walk out the door in a month, don't you?
Yeah, and you're not going to put that much focus on someone that you don't believe is going to be sticking around. Like, I think they fully expect Chad Gable to be sticking around. They fully expect, like, the Drew McIntyre kind of thing to be sticking around. They're not going to put that much effort into this.
I think the situation has changed slightly. Like, it's gone in the days so much where it'd be like, so your contract's ended in 6 months. Hope you enjoy 6 months of losing on television in really embarrassing ways. They don't seem to do that as much anymore. But like you say, they wouldn't also be booking you to fight for a title if they thought, could show up on Dynamite next week.
Say the reports about the Becky Lynch thing. They knew that she was most likely going to be taking some time off when her contract expired, but they still thought the best story is to have her win the belt because of the Rhea Ripley situation and then go on to drop it to Liv. And they had faith, obviously, in Becky Lynch that she was going to do business and it would all be fine.
It's Becky. She's the first woman to main event wrestle, one of the first women to main event WrestleMania. She's had this incredible run. They've put all the stuff behind her, and also kind of helps that her husband's in WWE as well.
Yeah, she's coming back.
Mitchell Gillum says, hey guys, hope you're well. I'm doing good. I had a bit of a sniffle yesterday, but I'm all good now. Who gets a cold in June? I've seen the discourse online about Roddy Strong jumping the line for a title shot. How do you guys feel about it? My issue is we know Roddy isn't winning because they already set up Ospreay Swerve. I hate when companies do that. I kind of agree on that aspect of it, that I'm not going to Dynamite going, who's going to head to Forbidden Door to fight Will Ospreay? Having said that, I will defend AEW a little bit in terms of the speed of his title shot, because they did do some work to explain that on Collision. Roddy Strong, in confronting Tony and complimenting on his neck strong abilities, did say that in storyline at least, he was next to come out in that gauntlet thing that they were doing for the title shot. So if Ospreay hadn't pinned whoever it was that he pinned, then he would have come out and argues that he would have won the match. Plus, Roddy's just been a title holder, so he's got that elevated position within the company. Plus, it's Roderick Strong. That match is going to kick ass on Wednesday.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I can definitely see the point of... There's a lot in AEW at the minute where you're like, well, I know who's going to win that match.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
A hell of a lot of it. So I can see that point. But yeah, like you say, I think this speaks to a wider thing in AEW if they need to cross the streams a little bit more between like Collision and Dynamite and explain things that have happened on other shows and at different shows to make sure that all of your audience is up to date rather than just
especially
the people
with those,
that
I don't know if they're true or not,
both.
those ratings that I saw for Collision, but Jesus, you need to keep people updated if that's the case on what's going on Collision.
So I think that's the wider issue here. But yeah, I don't think there's a problem. They just need to explain these things a little bit better so they can get their point across of why this is happening. Yeah,
they have far too many of those obvious winner, obvious loser matches. Having said that, they all build towards Forbidden Door, and who the hell leaves as world champion there? It's a great piece of booking, that I will say. Right, final question today comes from Eddie Zamhari. Fantastic question this. Thank you, Eddie. Hey guys, with recent WWE TNA crossover, get Joe Hendry at Clash of the Castle, please. Do you think there will be a representative TNA talent for Money in the Bank ladder match? If so, who do you want, both male and female? I really hope this happens. I didn't think about this, but I think it'd be a brilliant thing.
That would be a lot of fun. Who have you got?
Well, first name that popped into my head is Joe Hendry, because
obviously
it's the first name that pops into my head every morning because his song is literally the alarm on my phone. But he's at Clash of the Castle, so we'll keep him over there.
Separate.
Mike Bailey, please.
Hell yeah.
We've witnessed him on so many occasions for WCPW Defiant Wrestling. He was obviously in a bit of legal ramifications, I think is the best way of putting it.
Visa issues.
Hence why he couldn't appear on US TV for a long old time. But he's one of the most talented guys there is, and I think he's a joy to watch, and he'd wow people in the Money in the Bank ladder match.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. One of the hardest working guys on the indies as well.
And just a nice bloke. Just a really cool, chilled out dude.
And he'd do some really stupid
stuff.
Yeah. Which would be a hell of a lot of fun. For the men's, I will go with Chris Bay.
Oh, another friend of the channel.
Another lovely guy as well. Just because I think I'd love to see Chris Bay get an opportunity on a big time show.
He teased when they first started putting out the Jordan Gray stuff, and obviously more like one of the tag teams in NXT.
Yeah,
yes, please. But yeah, Chris Bay would do something bonkers in there as well. We're spoilt for choice. Like, I think me and Phil, when we came in here, initially said obviously Nick Nemeth. Someone who'd love to see him Money in the Bank ladder match. I've never seen before, and I'm worried Mustafa Ali would be in it, but then he'd get to the top of the ladder and just freeze in some terrible piece of booking for him. But moving over to the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, who you got?
I am going to go with Tasha Steele.
Oh, yes!
Because again, I think she'd be a lot of fun, and yeah, another person that I think could have a big spotlight shown on her.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of, there's like Masha Slamovich, obviously, in TNA.
Yeah.
Sue Young could be a creepy little interloper there.
Ash by Elegance, we could have a throwback to the pandemic Money in the Bank.
Of course. That's the wrong bloody briefcase. But I'll go Giselle Shaw. She was someone who really impressed me when we were lucky enough to go and see TNA, of course, when it was around these parts. More wrestling shows in the Northeast, please. I know North, obviously, is coming back here in July. I say coming back here. They're based here. But, we were so lucky to see them, and I thought Giselle Shaw was fantastic.
Yeah, she was really good.
Oh, if Gail Kim wants to wrestle again, yes, please.
I think she might be staying away from ladder matches.
Yeah.
Even if she did come back.
Yeah. Come back and get... That's why people shouldn't book CM Punk to win Money in the Bank, because... He's just coming back from injury, guys. No. But anyway, let us know who you'd like to see from TNA in the Money in the Bank ladder match in the comments section below. Let us know your thoughts on everything we've discussed. As I said, like, share, subscribe, and hey, if you want to check out that chat with Ricky Starks, here it is right here. Bye.